Hello, everyone. We want to get started. My name is Pamela Stenberg. I am the co-chapter chair of PSC CCNY, and we want to welcome you all today, really, to talk about and think about this extraordinarily important issue. As we know, or may not know, City College itself is a carbon contributor, I would say, a large one to the neighborhood. And it's really important work that we want to start and do today. I have two things. I have a welcome for and the chapter would like to welcome everybody here. Please tell your friends we're doing this. Please tell other members that we're doing this. And that this is probably one of the most important things of our time. Okay, the plug for sustainability and climate crisis. All right, the next thing I am going to do is play an intro. We invited Vince Boudreau, the president of the college, and he was unable to be here, but he did give us a short video to welcome us all.
Hi everybody, I'm not able to be with you today, but I did want to say how excited I was to have the Decarbonize CCNY forum taking place today. It's something that is important to us on a number of different levels. Talking about sustainability is a big part of the conversations we've been having with community groups, in our own management of our facilities, how we are upgrading facilities and pursuing policies to decarbonize the physical plant of CCNY. It's a huge area of emphasis, not just because it'll save us money, although it will, but because it's what you do as a citizen of the world and of the city. And then finally, we have on campus a plethora of academic programs that are training students on the technology and the policies around decarbonization in earth and atmospheric sciences, in our sustainability program, in the engineering school, in our science department. Decarbonization is at the forefront of tons of conversations that we're having. So all of which is to say, this is a perfect conversation to be having on this campus. And so I want to congratulate the conveners of this forum and wish all of you who are here today good luck and a productive dialogue. Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, I would like to introduce you to our next speaker and our MC. It's Yael Amran, and she's the operations manager at a small energy efficiency firm called Carlton Energy Consulting. Always passionate about the environment. After getting her degree in English literature and business management from McGill, she began working with the built environment in New York City through commercial real estate brokerage. 5 years later, Yael decided it was time to focus on her passion for the environment. She took an internship at the Mayor's Office of Sustainability, where she worked with the teams focused on Local Law 84 and 87. Soon after, she began to work at Bloomberg New Energy Finance, where she learned about the renewable energy markets. For the past 6 years, Yael has been working at Carlton Energy Consulting, CEC. CEC's focus on helping building owners and managers reduce their energy consumption through a diverse means of services. CEC's work is not just through compliance with New York City's stringent building emissions limits. The company also has a team on the ground implementing many of the efficiency recommendations. Yael also is a current CUNY student, now working on her Master of Science graduate degree in urban sustainability at CCNY. It's quite an exciting time for energy efficiency in New York City, and she loves being part of it. Yael, thank you.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming today. We're excited to have such a nice showing. I'm going to talk to you about a project, my capstone project that I did in the Master of Science and Sustainability in the Urban Environment program here that I completed last year. see if I can get the presentation going here. So can you see the whole screen? Yeah, let me move it over a little. Okay, can you? No, hold on a second. Yeah, wait, show me where to particularly adept at this. Okay, great. So, Pam mentioned, this is a very important time. Obviously, everyone in this room knows that. And I think this was a New York Times article from March 21st, 2023, where something we already knew was the main focus of the Times. Earth is nearing the tipping point for a hot future. Alarm and UN report calls for drastic action within this decade to avert disaster. As we were working as a capstone group, this was the backdrop to our decision for what we decided to focus on for the full year of our project. Not sure if I can. Okay. And as a group, there were 4 students, and we had a teacher who was helping push forward the project. And we sat down in the beginning and said, we're really interested in the environment. We're really interested in helping the school become more sustainable. How do we do that? What's the school doing? We had no idea. And so we did know that many schools, many institutions, government bodies have sustainability plans. And so we said, why don't we look to see what City College's plan is? What are they doing in relation to the environment? How are they focusing on their building emissions? And what we found out that was that the school didn't have a plan. And so that was the moment in time where we said, you know what, why don't we put together a template that we can present to the school that will maybe encourage them to put in place a sustainability plan that can be followed for the next however many years. And we did this by looking at other schools' templates. We went to Columbia University, we looked at other CUNY schools, and we took from those plans, as you can see here, and created a template with a bunch of different pillars in it. And then we said, you know what? We have this template now. We're going to take a few of these pillars and we're going to focus our efforts in putting together projects that can actually bring some of these pillars to fruition. So I'm going to go quickly through that because we have a long event today, but some of the objectives that we had during our research and throughout the year where we wanted to develop a plan for sustainability, to improve City College's campus. We wanted to create a coalition of government structures to encourage multiple stakeholders on the City College campus. And we wanted to educate the school and community like, we have, I hopefully will be doing here today, to catalyze change. Throughout the year, in relation to the different pillars, we had different events go on. So we had this is a timeline of the events, but we worked with the facilities department to engage them with their recycling program. We hosted the first Decarbonize event here. We had a waste audit in the NAC building. So there were lots of things that we did throughout the year to bolster and to grow the pillars that we were focusing on. This was the first pillar. It's hard to see, but responsible waste management on your left-hand side are some of the focus items that we looked at. We did a waste audit again, I mentioned that, and I'm going to just show you what that looked like. So my team members and I went throughout the NAC building and found that a lot of the garbage cans were unlabeled or all labeled differently, or all the trash cans were different. And it was very difficult as a layperson, as someone who may not know anything about recycling, to know what items should go into what can. And we created a plan on how we would label and make people aware of what the appropriate trash should be within each can. That, sorry, looked like this. So you can see what the labeling program looked like. Was very cohesive. Each can was labeled with the New York City stickers that I'm sure you've all seen in many places. And then post labeling, we did find that the garbage, and we did we weighed the garbage. We took all the garbage out. We did an assessment, and you can see here the visual inspection pictures. We found that with the labels, we had done a pre-inspection as well. The trash had been, or the trash was now being placed into the correct receptacles. Okay, so we also are focused on the second pillar, campus energy. We had many meetings, and I know Arthur is here from facilities. We had many meetings with the facilities management group to try and figure out what the building was doing in relation to energy management. So we found out at the time that there was, projects that had been implemented throughout the school to make it more efficient. Something called variable frequency drivers had been upgraded. That's a part of the HVAC system. There was a survey being done at the time, although it hadn't fully been green lighted, to install LED lighting throughout the campus. And some of the buildings already had LED lights. Also, we'd found out through this process and through facilities that there was a plan to install solar on the campus. And well, at the end, we'll announce. And then there was the third pillar that we focused on was culture change. And actually, I feel like today here we can see, you know, the fruits of our project. Having you all here was part of what we had hoped we would be able to achieve. So we hosted many events. We had an initial decarbonizing event. There was a sustainability public service announcement, screening event, so on and so forth. We also put digital messaging throughout the building on many of the screens. And at the very end of the project, so that was you know, in April of 2023, we actually were able to get reinstated a sustainability council in the school, which had gone on hold when COVID hit. And that was a really exciting moment. And just goes to show that, and I don't know what your backgrounds are, but when you put a little bit of effort into something that you really care about, that the end achievement is really positive. And that Sustainability Council has now been meeting. It has grown, and Arthur will talk about it a little bit later, I believe. And these are some of the things that we hope City College will do next. Establish that sustainability plan that that kind of was the impetus of this project. We hope that the Sustainability Council will continue to meet. We hope that there's the capacity to secure funding for larger capital projects. The solar project that I mentioned actually has been green lighted as well, and the construction, I've been told, is starting today. Really exciting. Replacing single-use plastic items at Benny's Cafe. That was something that was also in the works with the Sustainability Council. And so hopefully, this will just continue to grow and the pillars will be filled in, and the school will continue on the positive trajectory that it's on today. So thank you. And now I am going to introduce the other speakers today. I just don't know how to pull up there. I don't know if you want to pull up should I just go down? Is this it? I can speak while you, yeah. So I'm going to introduce Ashley Dawson. Ashley Dawson is an author, activist, and distinguished professor of English at the Graduate Center, City University of New York, and the College of Staten Island. Recently published books of his include Environmentalism from Below, People's Power, Reclaiming the Energy Commons, Extreme Cities, and Extinction, a Radical History. Ashley works for the abolition of fossil fuels and a democratic energy transition as a member of the Public Power New York campaign and founder of the Public Power Observatory.
so much for that introduction. It's great to be here. Can everyone hear me? Yeah. Okay, great. So I'm a professor in the humanities. What am I doing here? You might be wondering, since, as you heard from the president's talk, there's a lot of technical and scientific knowledge involved in decarbonizing CUNY. But what I want to tell you is that this project isn't just a technical project. It's also a human project. In fact, it's a project that has to do with which humans' lives count and which humans' lives do not count, right? Which communities are slated for premature death? Whose land is turned into a sacrifice zone? How do I know that? Well, just to give you one example, on Monday, I was at Citibank headquarters downtown, where people were protesting because Citibank has given $1.6 billion to liquid natural gas export zones in the Gulf South. Literally a massive carbon bomb destroying the planet and, of course, the lives of people in Louisiana and Texas. So there were environmental justice leaders from those communities beseeching Citibank to talk to them. Did Citibank executives come out to talk to them? No, they arrested them. The NYPIRG arrested them and carried them away. There was also a representative from an indigenous community in the Amazon. I don't know if you've been following the news, but the Amazon is on fire, right? The lungs of the planet are on fire. And a lot of this has to do with investments from wealthy firms like Citibank and Monsanto, et cetera, in expanding soy cultivation and other forms of extractivism in Brazil. So whose lives count and whose lives do not count? And of course, here in New York City, there are similar kinds of sacrifice zones, right? Parts of the city, like Harlem or like some of the eastern parts of Brooklyn, lack trees. They're subjected to brownouts by our for-profit utilities like Con Ed, and they face all kinds of other directly imperiling events as a result of histories of environmental injustice and racism. So we're here to think about decarbonizing CUNY, but I want to suggest that this project is part of a much bigger project, and that is fighting for climate and environmental justice. And it's something we all need to be part of, and all of our different disciplines here in academia have to throw down for this struggle. So even though I'm a professor, I'm also an activist, and I'd like to lead you in a bit of an activist chat, just to get your blood flowing a little bit. So when I say people, you say power. Okay, ready? People. 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 Thank you very much. I'm from South Africa. Those of you who remember the anti-apartheid struggle will remember that Amandla, people's power was a key kind of anti-apartheid. That's right, exactly, yeah. And we need to have that kind of people power now, not just organizing and fighting for change, but also making the electricity system democratic and just, all right? So yeah, we need to make this happen. So I'm going to present to you a few slides about the public power movement, which is just one part of this bigger struggle. It's been around for 5 years here in New York City, and it's been fighting for democratic and just control of the energy system. Here's a sense of how broad our coalition is. We've organized across New York State. Why across the state? Well, because the electric grid is controlled on a statewide basis. We can't just organize in New York City, in other words, although we have to organize in New York City, because we consume a lot of energy here in New York City, and a lot of it comes from upstate. But we need to organize across the entire state. And you can see it's a pretty heterogeneous coalition that we put together. It involves a lot of environmental justice groups, it involves conservation groups, and it involves a lot of political formations, including quite a few of the Democratic Socialists of America chapters around the state. And it also involves our union here at CUNY, the Professional Staff Congress, as well as other unions. But PSC was really in the lead in getting a lot of other unions on board. So thanks and kudos to PSC. All right. What were we doing? What was our goal? And what were we trying to intervene in? We're trying to change the grid. Now, the grid, as I've found over the last 5 years during my time as a public power activist, is really complicated. It's the biggest machine ever invented by human beings, basically. And there's a lot that goes on, and a lot of technical stuff for a humble humanities professor like me to try and understand. But there are some basic points. The grid has 3 kind of key elements: generation, transmission, and distribution. All right. And all of those things need to be coordinated carefully, because if you have too much generation and not enough consumption, or vice versa, the whole grid would crash and you have brownouts, right? Which have life-threatening implications. Think about a hospital, for example. If the power crashes, people are going to be on the operating table, and suddenly it's going to go dark, right? And this is also an environmental justice issue, as I mentioned, because when the grid is not well balanced, what do for-profit companies like Con Ed do? They cut power to working-class communities of color. So they end up as the sacrifice zones in order to keep the broader grid going. So we need to think about all of this as we fight for a democratic and just energy transition. Our campaign decided that the best way to make this change and to basically decommodify the grid, to turn it into a public good that works for all of us in a way that's just, is to turn to an already existing public power authority. And that is, as you see on the right here, the New York Power Authority. It's the largest publicly owned utility in the US. Like Con Ed, lots of people think it's public, or even National Grid. Sounds public, right? It's not the word national, but those are actually for-profit companies, right? And they work the way most for-profit companies do. They try and charge their consumers as much as possible and make as much money for investors as possible. NYPA is different because it's charged with the public good. And it was established in the 1930s, and to this day, it provides some of the most affordable electricity in New York. And it also generates a lot of relatively clean power, including hydropower. So we fought really hard to get NYPA to have the authority to build out renewables because the private sector is failing in that effort. In fact, not only failing, but Con Ed spends about $1 million every year lobbying against renewable energy, right? So they're actually slowing the transition down. So in 2023, after 4 years or so political struggle, we and our allies got the Build Public Renewables Act passed, BPRA. This is a really milestone, right? Law. It's probably the most significant Green New Deal law that's been passed in the United States. And of course, many countries all around the rest of the world are looking to us here in New York as a result of our passage of BPRA. What does it do? Well, most importantly, it authorizes NYPA to build enough public renewables projects to ensure that we meet the goals of the Community Leadership and Protection Act, also known as the Climate Act of 2019. That act from 2019 stipulates we should have 70% renewable energy in the grid by 2030 and 100% by 2040. It also has a lot of other really important elements to it. Accelerated peaker shutdown, getting rid of those dirty power plants that almost all are located in communities of color, helping low-income people afford their electricity bills, and making sure that the new renewables are built by unionized labor. Unfortunately, since we passed that bill, Governor Hochul has continued to not do the right thing, has continued to fail to move us forward on the energy transition. As you can see, she recently admitted that we're 3 years behind on our climate goals of 70% renewable energy. And in fact, she's backtracking by saying we don't have the legal climate mandates that we need. But she does have the final authority over NYPA. So we need to push her to empower NYPA and to direct it to engage in a really radical build out of renewables. How radical? We want her to build out 15 gigawatts of public renewables by 2030. Why 15 gigawatts? What does that even mean? Well, that's our calculation for how much we need to really get to that 70% renewables by 2030. And obviously, if we don't do that, all the climate crises that I was describing at the outset are going to continue to get worse. And we want Governor Hochul to take New York City's universities as a kind of laboratory for this transformation, because we get our power from NYPA. where better to have this change happen? We can create tens of thousands of good jobs, we can cut utility bills, and we can shut down those polluting peaker plants, many of which are located just close to City College. Okay, so we need to bring renewable energy to what's the college name here? And Hostos and Queens and Staten Island, et cetera, et cetera. So that's our call. How do we make that happen? Well, we call Governor Hochul and we tell her to get off her ass and start doing something. That's right. So I want you to take out your shut. Tell her not to shut it down, but to turn it on. Right? You know, we need her to turn it on. So take out your cell phones. There's the number, and call Governor Hochul.
Right now?
Right now. Yeah. This is great. She personally will not pick up. Don't worry. It's not going to pick up there. Wait, just press number 1. Okay, and just you can leave a message, right? So take it to a voicemail. You can leave a message, but this is really important because believe it or not, Governor Hochul or her minions actually listen to these messages and they get scared if we leave lots of messages. So here's the script. You know, say your name, say where you're calling from, and say, you know, New York is facing a crisis in our energy transition. We want you to drink NYPIRG and build public renewables. Everyone got it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So just take a minute and make that call. And thank you very much.
I'm going to introduce Arthur Eagle, a recent graduate from the Division of Sciences Chemistry program and member of the City College Facilities team for 2 years. Arthur supports operations in environmental health and occupational safety across campus.
Thank you. I've only been here for 2 years, and the scope isn't especially broad, but in facilities, we like to give a little more effort into communicating with the broader community, and this is one way I can do that. So to begin, I'll just give you a short overview of what we've got going on and our plans for the future. Myself, the HOS facilities, and the executive groups here at the City College. So, start off by letting you know that we've recently had a walkthrough through an engineering consultant, Ramble, and they're working with us to really look at the possible decarbonization projects we have on campus. We've got a timeline here from the last time they communicated with us. They've done their walkthrough, and what we really need to focus on here is figuring out what we can do with their infrastructure that's several hundred of years old. We've decided that the main way we can do that is by improving our energy efficiency. Excuse me. Yael has already said that we're looking at variable frequency drives on our motors to improve the efficiency of our HVAC system. And that's mainly because we have a physical plant that either completely cools the entire campus in the summer or at maximum efficiency, or it heats it in the winter. We're looking to address demand and use and be more efficient in general so that we're not running our motors at full blast all the time, whether it's heating or cooling. And to that, we'll also be connecting everything to our building management system. We'll have professionals that can manage it better without, in general, we're just trying to, this is just another way of getting our energy efficiency, excuse me. We've also got photovoltaics, solar panels. Right today, we're starting the construction fencing at the parking lot. And then we'll go through a month of site work. And then after that, we'll actually start building the panels. And then after that, within our first phase, we'll have electric vehicle chargers, energy storage after that. And the arrays. It's not the grand plans that we have in the future, but it's our first step in having photovoltaics on the campus at all. We're looking into other electric vehicle charging stations, and we're following what the Local Law 97 and Executive Order 22 to reach the 2035 goals of having all of our vehicles to be all electric. From there, we're moving with our light duty vehicles, the facilities use vehicles, and then our buses, which are running on natural gas right now. These are our scope 1 emissions and not commuter emissions, waste emissions, etc. Following that, we have our governance structure that has to push all of this forward. We can't do it on our own. We have to rely on the executives, the operations, and planning. The governance council was established several months ago. They've had their first meetings, and it was a big milestone for us to get everyone in the room at the same time. So we're working on our master plan, not just the sustainability master plan, but the master plan for coming years. And that includes these 5 pillars of sustainability that we're focusing in on, because we can't address everything at once, but we can focus on energy, water, responsible materials management, which is our waste, construction materials, and communication education. You know, we really have been lacking on the communication front, and this is one of our steps in getting that done. We hope to be in better communication with you all. I speak on behalf of EHLS and facilities, apparently. I hope to be in better communication with you all, and I hope we can do better moving forward with our current plans.
Well, we're super excited to bring the ideas of equity and conservation and sustainability to life with project proposals through our capstone project this semester. So you're going to be seeing slides from our last semester, where we identified different areas on campus where we can apply these principles of sustainability, resiliency. And this semester, we're going to be focused on working with our private sector partners to create actionable project plans that we can actually share with the sustainability groups around campus that will be primed for implementation. So we're hoping to push along the work that you all have been doing so wonderfully, and then to turn that into a viable business case and made to the decision makers, and to show that CCNY can be the shining gem of the state university, city university system, especially when it comes to sustainability. We have a huge opportunity on this campus. As Arthur alluded to, there's a heating and cooling loop, which basically enables us to shift loads from different areas on the campus to other areas. So if one area is heating, we can shift that to, if they're producing cooling, we can shift that load. So this campus is primed up for sustainability and resiliency. It looks like our slides are working. Maria's going to start us off.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming. So like Jason gave us a brief introduction. We can use this. Of what our capstone project is basically a proposal of how these new renewable energy technologies can be implemented into the existing system. So just the overview of the energy use of the campus, as you can tell, it's heavily relied on electrical power. So very little is gas usage, everything else is electricity. And this gives us a great potential to shift towards sustainable alternatives. Some of them, I'm just going to go through some of the technologies that we're looking into. Agrivoltaic panels that can be installed onto the roofs with small gardens that can produce some produce for our campus cafeteria, and also they provide green roofs, which can contribute to lower urban heat index. Also, they can help, which is the next slide, but we can also collect the sanitary waste heat from water and recover that and use it for energy, as well as collect all the food scraps
like as we seen in the previous presentation, and to reduce waste, which is going to be mandatory on all all buildings to reduce their waste by local law 22 by 2050. Executive order. Yes, they need to be reduced, and we're proposing a biodigester on campus, which Jason is working on one right now. To reduce waste, yes. Produce renewable energy, the gas that can be collected and turned into energy. Promote sustainability, improve soil health, as this byproduct can be used to fertilize the soil on our green roofs, which is very cost effective environmentally and great, and it's a great educational tool in the campus. Also, hydrogen generation. Rainwater from the roofs can be collected and turned into hydrogen energy that can be used to provide vehicle to load and vehicle to grid energy. Basically, vehicles to load are electric vehicles that can store energy and then provide energy to energize appliances or any other. And this can definitely, we can all benefit from it. It's time to become more sustainable and energy, less electrical energy dependent. I'm gonna give it over to Jason. He's gonna introduce these technologies into the grid right now.
So I want to talk a little bit about why these technologies were selected and how we would implement them. The idea that we're going for here. So what we're looking to create are sustainable closed loop systems that rely on waste products to generate either heat or electricity. We want to take all the energy that's coming into campus and extract as much as we can and keep it here. And we want to incorporate these sustainable loops all around campus. So this is loop one. This is the agrivoltaic loop. You can see we have a biodigester. The agrivoltaics rely on the PV system with the green roof. So basically installing a green roof on the NAC with solar panels above it, and then collecting the waste, the organic waste from that to feed the biodigester, in addition to feeding the biodigester with organic scraps from the food facilities around campus. That would go into a combined heat and power plant. The technology we selected for that was mainstream linear generators. So this is a new technology out of Stanford, which can, using adjustable compression ratios, work and operate off of gas, natural gas and hydrogen, or a combination of both. So it's a very versatile technology that allows you to generate electricity right on campus. And it's a low temperature combustion, so it reduces NOx and SOx emission. The battery energy storage system, as Maria talked about, using a vehicle to grid battery energy storage, that would be using CUNY's fleet to power, say, a cooling center during high demand days. And we have our still connected grid electricity, but just extra, and then you can see the rainbow there. So this is one of the loops we identified. When we first started, we were looking all over the campus. We kind of honed in for the second semester. We're going to hone in on the North Academic Center because it is the largest user, and you can see the layout here and how we would, the number of technologies that would be applied here. So imagine a green roof, solar panels over it, waste heat collection system on the back of solar panels for domestic hot water generation, a biodigestion plant, and this would basically enable us to lower the load enough that we don't have to install any additional capacity. And so one of my big recommendations, other recommendations, is that we limit the amount of new heating and cooling equipment, new capacity. So if we have 100 BTUs of heating on campus, so let's not install anymore. Let's use what we have. And then if we do need anything extra, we can take it from the waste. That's when the idea applied. And we look at this throughout campus. So here's our waste heat, sanitary waste heat energy recovery. So this would be collecting waste heat out of domestic hot water sanitary waste, i.e. the waste that goes down the drain. You pay to heat it, now we're putting it into the environment. So there's a number of benefits there. And again, it relies on the same kind of closed loop system, and you can kind of see the loop here. And then we apply that one to the towers, which is dorm building because the high sanitary waste output. And this is our electrolyzer rainwater storage. So one of the things we want to do is take the waste from the wastewater treatment plant, or sorry, the electrolyzer, and use the waste O2 to create a higher quality effluent, which in turn will use less energy at the waste treatment plant than just up the road here. So, yeah. And then these are some plans where we might we're thinking about putting it. Again, our second semester we're focusing mainly on the next, so we'll have very more specific proposals for that this semester. And then this is our last one, into the cooling center. And you can see then taking the organic waste out of the cooling center, and you can waste out, let's say, during a hot weather event, and shipping that into the water right there, and making sure we're capturing all this waste and returning it into the loop. And that's where we plan for that. So we have these great spaces on campus that are open for development. You can see this is just the parking. It's just being used, the green space being used for parking. So let's turn it into something. Let's recover our energy and put it to good use so we can accomplish our goals.
They covered it, they think we could go.
So Jason and Marie have done a great job talking about some exciting technology. And like what the what that might look like on CCNY campus. I'm here to talk about the really fun subject of how it's paid for. So an important element of this project for us was that it be feasible from the perspective of something that can be submitted and actually actionable by administration of the school, and even potentially in other situations that are similar to CCNY. We're going to be looking at things like CCNY's capital budget, which the next slide is about, potential grant funding. There's right now a lot of federal grant money for these kinds of projects that we are currently in the process of looking at. That is a huge job because the federal grant system is quite complex, but we have been working on it and going to continue to do that. Long-term energy reduction obviously creates some cost benefits for the university, and that's a great way to sell decision makers here and in other places on this kind of investments. And then obviously we've been talking with personnel at CCNY about like what it's going to take organizationally to have the bandwidth to do this. It's not just the money, but it's actually the ability of the existing staff to like put these projects into place. This is mostly an informational slide. You can see the CCNY 5-year capital plan. Some of this stuff was talked about earlier. These are projects that are already in place. This is publicly available. 43 million is kind of your overall total there at the bottom right corner, which is obviously a decent chunk of money, that some of which is already working on sustainability projects, and there's obviously funding, additional funding to be reflected in this. The second element of our project is on top of the feasibility and scalability to other environments. So basically, we wanted to not just work on CCNY and the potential to like improve the energy efficiency here, but look at these kinds of microgrid projects for other similar environments. Whether those might be higher campuses, there's some potential relationships to like non-urban environments in the US and overseas, as well as standalone environments that are larger that might have some kind of similar power needs and the ability to become microgrids where you're taking in power, creating your own power in certain situations and potentially taking it back to the grid in other situations. So our report is going to have recommendations for the potential to scale this type of project into those projects. We got the same slide twice. It's probably my fault, I'm sure. And then next step. So we're going to be finalizing technology stack evaluations, which Jason already talked about, just seeing what looks feasible, what does not, and specifically analyzing how it's going to work on CCNY's campus. What's this going to be? What for the layout that we've got here, for the existing buildings that we've got here, for the existing systems that we've got here? What can we take and really how do it make sense for the campus, for administration, for everybody, and obviously really important development project. And then that will be presented in a way that is a feasible project that can be acted upon by a week.
Now I'm going to introduce John Furlong. As a Clean Buildings campaign manager, John works with state and local elected officials, stakeholders in the building construction, retrofitting, and financing world, and partners in the environmental advocacy and labor movements to advance NYLCB's building decarbonization policy. John has spent the last 15 years plus working in affordable housing and community development spaces in policy, organizing, and advocacy capacities. John received his master's degree in urban affairs from Hunter College in 2003.
Everybody, that's the one I introduced my colleague Juan Torres, who is our fabulous community organizer. He's going to be helping me kind of move my slide along. Just first thing, a little bit about me. I live in the neighborhood. I live at 148th Street in Amsterdam. I've lived on that block for 13 years. My daughter goes to daycare right down the road at the Magic Learning Center. I walk through this campus every day. I've never been in this building. My wife is a part-time adjunct here teaching community organizing. So I'm really honored to be here today. And I'm sorry I haven't come here sooner. And it's great to see all of you. And then as Gail said, I have really my background is in affordable housing. I've done a lot of organizing at the grassroots level. I'm relatively new to this space. So it's just been really an honor to kind of work with and learn from some really smart people. Okay, so I'm going to whip through these slides because I feel like, you know, the discussion and the questions are really, I think, an important part of the afternoon. So who are we? We're actually, can you go back one? Yeah. So we are New York State conservation voters. We fight for clean air, clean water, renewable energy through political action. We do C3 and C4 work. So the education fund. We educate and engage New Yorkers in environmental issues and encourage them to get involved. So after we are all done here, go back and pick up one of our
voter pledges,
our lovely voter cards. So we're in two spaces, right? We are working with politicians to get good policy done, and then we're working with the general public to educate folks on what policy is out there and then who is voting for what, right? And there's, you know, I think actually there's a really important grassroots component to all this, and this is sort of the action on the political side. So I'm going to talk about two big buckets of our work, and it's mainly going to focus on building decarbonization. One of them is our work with the Upgrade New York collaboration, and then the other one, the second bucket is, and that's kind of the last little batch of slides, is to pass legislation called the New York Heat Act. So we are collaborators with a whole bunch of other unions, environmental justice groups. Mainly our biggest partner, I think, is the Building Decarbonization Coalition, Alliance for a Green Economy, WEACT. They're just right up the road. They do fabulous work at the grassroots level. And really the most important, the secret sauce in all of this is unions and organized labor, and specifically the pipe trades. Right, so what I'm going to talk to you about are thermal energy networks, and these sort of like weird. So we had our amazing capstone team talking to you about energy loops. I'm going to talk about energy loops that focus on water, right? And so these folks, all the collaborators in this group, are just in the Capitol every day, right up until the end of session, talking to our legislators about thermal energy networks, and I'm going to call them TENS. Sorry. Next slide, please. So our goals: we want the state to immediately fund construction of shovel-ready projects. We want the state to develop plans to fully decarbonize 15 of the highest emitting facilities, and I'll get to those 15 in a second. There's a lovely list that we have. We want to reduce on-site emissions by at least 30%. 50% by 2030, 70% by 75 by 2035, and 100% by 2040. And this work, again, most important, has to be coupled with labor standards, including prioritized recruitment and support of local workers in disadvantaged communities. Our transition into a green economy has a chance to impact a lot of people, right? And the pushback that we get all the time is it's going to cost a lot of money and people are going to lose jobs. Yes, it's going to cost a lot of money. People don't have to lose jobs. In fact, we can build jobs. We can build a really, really strong component of organized labor if we really put these things in practice. Next slide. So raise your hand if you know what thermal energy networks are. Okay, this is great. This is great. So very, very, I mean, for those of you who don't know, and I've been speaking at these things for only a short time. It's taken me this long to sort of very succinctly and accurately describe it. They're basically, it's a system that uses a network of pipes and water pipes to connect buildings and thermal sources and thermal sinks. So you're basically, and thank you so much to my colleagues from the capstone team to sort of like really kind of, I think, visualize some of what that means. You're basically using water to heat and cool buildings in a really, really efficient way. And you're sinking that heat in some places and then bringing it up in other places as you need it. And I think I'll have another slide. Let's go to the next slide. Yes, okay, so this is like, we are not in the MCA infrastructure training. I cribbed this slide from a colleague of mine named Jay Egg. He's owns and runs a company called AGO. This is a slide he did for training a long time ago, but I'm sorry for not having taken the text off. But this gives you a sense of what a thermal energy network is and what it does. And so you can interconnect whole groups of buildings to be heated and cooled by these water pumps and or water pipes rather. And you can use you talked about waste heat capture from biomass, right? There's waste heat. There's all kinds of waste heat that we see all the time. In fact, if you're walking by, and I've noticed this dropping my daughter off a daycare, the NAP building specifically in the wintertime, is venting up all the steam into the air, right? We can capture that and actually heat buildings. There's so many sources of energy that are all around us that we kind of just don't really think about. Next slide. Okay, so these are the 15, right? The dirty 15. And it's like, and this is really not in any kind of, yeah, right. So take a look here. So you have Empire State Plaza. So Empire State Plaza that's an opening, right? They're working to decarbonize it. They want to do a 10 there. It's going to take years to complete and a lot of money, but they're working on it. You've got the Harriman State Office Building. You've got a lot of SUNYs on this list. Then you've got Hunter, my alma mater is 12. And you've got Attica, you've got the Psychiatric Center, the Rockland Psychiatric Center, kind of rounding out the list. You're gonna struggle to hear, like, listen to me kind of editorialize between the things I want to say and things I can't say. We're behind, right? We're way, way, way behind on these projects. I mean, I think we need this stuff to happen yesterday. So all of these, I think each and every one of these campuses are equally important in terms of decarbonizing, and we really, really need to push the governor to do all this. So what else is happening around the state? Can you click on that text? And we'll see if we can get, what else is happening? Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh,
Let's see if we can do it.
it won't show.
It won't show?
Yeah.
Right. That's too bad.
You would have to just come out of presentation mode.
Oh,
Start your
okay.
presentation.
This is, I don't want to get us too sidetracked. So basically, and I really appreciate you doing that, by the way. So in 2023, the state passed the Utility Thermal Energy Networks and Jobs Act, UTENJA. Basically, that means that there are utility-built thermal energy pilots that are happening around the state. And this slide, I have hyperlinked to a map that Building Decarb made to show where they are. There's, I think, 14, either 11 or 14 pilot projects that are being advanced around the state that are trying to bring TENS into different neighborhoods. And they're facing different levels of, not resistance, but they're just facing different levels of challenge, right? There's a lot of, people just don't know about TENS. People like natural gas. Unfortunately, the message testing around natural gas is not great, but they're trying to kind of move these projects along. And one of our goals, and we're actually going to talk about this as a coalition on October 1st, is like, how do we move these pilots further along down this time? So if you want to, so it's Upgrade New York, right? It's the website upgradenewyork.org. And within that website, there is a map to all these pilots that are happening around the state. Next slide. Okay, so what else are we doing? We're going to pass, the two things that I'm talking about, these two buckets, kind of go hand in hand. We want to pass the New York Heat Act, Basically, in summation, it's basically downsizing the gas, right? We want to downsize the gas system. We cannot afford to expand the gas system anymore. Next slide, please. There's three components to the Heat Act. Ensuring energy affordability. We want this legislation would put a 6% cap on energy bills. Next slide. Ending the obligation to serve. So anyone looking to become a customer, the Public Service Commission basically created a law that said utilities had to serve people, right? They have to serve you. It's like when you open a restaurant and you have one thing on the menu. You've got gas on the menu, you have to give you gas, right? Next slide. And then the 100-foot rule. If they would basically also require a utility to build a gas pipeline to any building or home within 100 feet of an existing gas main. Well, what that means is that we're subsidizing. We, as the state, are subsidizing gas companies to continue to expand the gas. So when people say, well, thermal energy networks are expensive, yes, they're expensive. We also have the money to do it. How do we have the money to do it? Ending the obligation of serve and ending the 100-foot rule. Like, we have the resources to do this. It takes grassroots action, and it takes political will. Right, so really, like, I'm so glad that it actually went through the exercise of calling governor. We need to push the governor, we need to push the legislature to pass the New York Heat Act. We were very, very close last year. I've been with NYPIRG for years and change. This will be my third legislative session. This is our third go around with this. So last year we were this close. Anybody know about congestion pricing?
Yeah.
What happened with congestion pricing? Yeah, and that took all the that just sucked all the energy out of the room. Nobody wanted to talk about anything else. They didn't want to talk about tenants. They didn't want to talk about New York heat. All because Kathy Hope went to a diner and like talked to some people about congestion pricing. So we're really, really close this year. We hope to pass the New York Heat Act. I hope to come back here anytime and tell you that we did it. But we really we need to do this stuff right now. We need to stop giving gas companies money to continue to expand the gas system. We need to put these large scale, district level renewable projects into practice. And that's what I got. Thank you so much.
Last on the list, I'm going to introduce Justin Yulo. Justin Yulo is a project coordinator for the City College chapter of the New York Public Interest Research Group, NYPIRG. As a CCNY 23 alum, Justin works to organize students to fight for social change on issues that directly impact them and their community, including the cost of higher education, the climate crisis, consumer justice, and more. He works with the campus community to build student leaders that engage in advocacy in and outside the campus. NYPIRG offers students opportunities to participate in civic engagement and advance responses to social problems in the areas that most matter to them.
Oh, goodness, left and right. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. My name is Justin. As you can see over there, I'm the project coordinator of NYPIRG here at City College. A lot of the students in the room, of course, know me as the guy running around campus telling you to register to vote or to annoy your legislator about the New York Heat Act and auto bill and such. That we're still fighting for and will not stop, of course. I'm a City College alum. I was an NYPIRG intern myself about a year and a half ago, and I've seen what it looks like with student power to fight for things on the local and state level. It's insane. Students have been organizing on campus, off campus, in the city, around the US to make things better for students and for New Yorkers and for all in general. And I've seen what it's like, and that's why I'm glad to organize students today and so on and so forth to organize around environmental protection, which is one of NYPIRG's main campaign issues that we fight on. Because frankly, time is running out. We only have a couple of years to actually take action, especially in New York State. So a bit about NYPIRG. We have chapters all throughout New York State, 16 of them, about 6 upstate and 10 here in New York City. As City College has been here since 1976, with the oldest being Queens College in 1973. And students in the undergraduate student government and student organizers have literally and figuratively fought to have NYPIRG be a representative of students on campus alongside with their student governments. To fight for things like climate issues. You can see me right there, last week's protest.
Hey.
That was the Make Polluters Pay protest with over 75,000 people marching to the UN to demand them actually do something. And the UN's back currently, so we should look out for it as well. So, the reason why we work on decarbonizing and climate pollution is because, as I've said, time is running out unless we do something. Because college students and New Yorkers are seeing a lot more climate disasters nowadays. The orange skies from the wildfires just 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half. It doesn't feel that long ago. These sudden, many numbers of hurricanes, who I feel like names we're running out of anytime soon, that's happening, hitting one right now in southern US, which is insane. But also, everything from flash floods, flooding subways, extreme heats. It's about to be like it feels like a third summer last week, even, in September, which is insane. But stuff like unrelenting tornadoes in western New York, severe storms, coastal flooding, erosion, and many more have been basically harming our cities, our states, and more due to climate inaction from our leaders. And that's why NYPIRG has been fighting for statewide policies to decarbonize buildings, transportation, and more, everything from solid waste to energy. So, by the DEC, the cost of inaction would cost way more. The cost of inaction would be a lot more than taking action. It would be cheaper to actually take action on actual climate change measures. DEC calculated to be $115 billion, and 2030 is fast approaching. We only have like 6 years left, even little, to even do something. And delaying it means more deaths, suffering, and a planet that will die even faster and nothing to live on. So, these are many things that NYPIRG students have worked on: decarbonizing buildings, shifting transportation, funding for environmental programs, and create new jobs and infrastructure, and a lot more. So I'll talk a little bit about one of the ones that we're fighting on for that is currently being contested by City Council, and there's even a rally at City Hall today. As you can imagine, City Hall is kind of on fire with a certain mayor being indicted, but also many things happening, investigations and whatnot. But Local Law 97 is basically the majority of New York City's public buildings and buildings in general put off a lot of emissions. Over 70% of our emissions are put off by our large skyscrapers and buildings, like the NAP. This place is huge. And with Local Law 97, basically it would deem that the buildings over 25,000 square feet and over to run more efficiently on electricity. It would require large buildings to reduce their emissions and upgrade their energy efficiency, making it more cost effective and making it run more efficiently in general. The benefits, of course, it would save energy, make buildings run more efficiently, and also improving local air quality, because as you know, a lot of places in the congested parts of New York is insanely polluted with terrible air and emissions from huge buildings and whatnot. And also cutting utility costs for the building owners too. So this is really just a win-win-win. And already, before the law was even implemented that we fought for, over 90% of the buildings are already complying with Local Law 97, which is more than a great head start. There's just 10% that needs to be in there. So, because Local Law 97 in its current form is essential for ensuring a livable and inhabitable New York City for generations to come, as rising sea levels and insufferable air quality continue to push the 5 boroughs to the brink of existence due to climate pollution. So, building owners under Local Law 97 will be able to employ new tactics and infrastructure things to make it run more efficiently and put less emissions. However, due to stuff like the real estate lobby, famous thank you, I guess, they have been pushing City Council to push Intro 772, which would gut Local Law 97, and it's currently being contested with the City Council right now and in the past few months. It would basically make loopholes for rich building owners to curtail some of the energy efficient infrastructure initiatives and do stuff like making it so that the building scale would also count the green outdoor space, which that does not make sense. That's for the outdoor, not for the indoor part. And also, double counting energy improvements that a building made before local law 97 was passed in 2019, and more loopholes to basically make it to basically defang the law. And right now we're organizing to fight against Intro 772. That'll take you to a little sheet that'll give you that'll show you which city council members are on co-sponsoring that bill. I was also shocked to find my city council member was on that bill or so. But there's phone numbers to call the city council leadership and your city council members to urge them, as well as a script to get them off of local law 97, of Intro 772, and support local law 97. Going a bit more quickly, as mentioned before by our amazing friends with the New York Video Conservation Voters, the New York Heat Act, we've been fighting for that to happen. It kind of died in the Senate, I believe, this year, but still, we have been in Albany along with them and many other organizations to fight for the New York Heat Act, because honestly, it's a no-brainer. To basically limit your utility bills to 6% of your income, and also heating your homes in a much more efficient way. For those that went with us up to Albany, we've seen what it looks like with thousands of members of the community fighting for that to happen. And another new one that NYPIRG has started working onto is Buster boilers. Basically, phasing out fossil fuel boilers in homes and buildings that are basically about to die, and replacing them with thermal energy heat pumps to run more efficiently in buildings and homes to heat them. It would help subsidize the homeowners to be able to afford these and weatherize their homes so that they can withstand climate damages and such, and it's also cost effective as well. So again, it's a win-win-win. And then what does it look like when community fights? This is what it looks like along with many of thousands of more pictures all throughout New York State. You've seen NYPIRG at City Hall, you've seen us at Albany, you've seen us on your campuses rallying, getting students to sign petitions, calling their governors, calling leadership and bothering them because they need to take action now. No longer should they only take money from the fossil fuel industry and lobby against us to basically lead to a dying planet, but they should really be fighting for us, the students, the New Yorkers, and everyone that lives here for a better climate planet. And also, what that also looks like is getting registered to vote, which, as you know, it's a big election coming up. Your president is up, your city council members might be up for grabs, your congresspersons, and even ballot amendments are coming soon. So if you need to update your registration or register to vote, like your address or your political party, we can do that for you. We've been registering over thousands of students across the state of New York for 50 years now, and while we organize and fight at City Hall or in the streets or rally and march, we also need to make our voices heard in the ballot box to make sure that our representatives that we want representing us are in Albany and in City Hall representing the needs of everyone and what we want for better planets. And follow us on social media. We have a lot of different events coming up soon. I know this morning we had a lot of NYPIRG people at City Hall and a lot of coalition members rallying for local law 97 and literally bothering our council members. And we're not going to stop anytime soon because we have a lot passed. And also with the governor. I mean, the Climate Change Superfund Act got passed by both state houses, which is amazing. But it's really, we're now pressuring the governor to finally sign it before the end of the year. And with that bill, of course, it would make corporate polluters pay and make a pool of money so that we can have green new jobs, green new energy, and basically have a fund all around to do all of these amazing projects like decarbonizing our campuses or those 15 buildings and go way above and beyond to decarbonize New York as a whole. And that's it.
We now do have some time for questions.
Questions?
I saw on the slide that the proportion of electric to gas was 99% to 1. I'm wondering where all the other thermal energy comes from to heat buildings, or the building.
Do you want to direct that question toward a certain speaker?
I guess it's for this team in front of me.
Yeah, and if you could answer your questions at the podium so that the mic is picking up.
So yeah, that was on one of our slides. So we got the information from the campus on the energy use. So
there was a local law 84 filing, and their campus does have a heating and cooling loop, so there is some load shifting, I'm sure. But yeah, the reason that looks crazy too is I think that was cost, and so we're looking at cost and consumption.
And
So
consumption, exactly.
I think that chart was cost, not necessarily consumption. So we'd have to break it down into BTUs to give you a more precise.
Can you say a little bit about what local law 84 is?
So local law 84 is a benchmarking law that requires reporting for energy use. CUNY facilities are not actually obligated to follow local law 84, but they did, which is great. So we have this information. The difficult thing with thermal energy networks is identifying exactly, where heat is coming from and being applied to and all that. So on this campus, even though we're looking at just the NAC, you might be getting heat from, Marshak, you might be getting heat from, the Silverman Center or whatever. That's it, yeah.
And if you walk by a building and you see a letter grade on the building, that's benchmarking. That's like how that's the energy efficiency.
That's right.
So you were mentioning something about, and it kind of lays on, but what's the environment like, the air? Like if you're using, recycling stuff like that, is it going to smell fresh, or is it going to be? That was something that kind of raised a.
So are you speaking specifically to the anaerobic biodigestion and compost? So compost, they're doing some great work at Baruch and at Lehman. The compost doesn't smell. It might smell for like a couple hours, but generally it eats up the bacteria that cause the smell. And then with anaerobic biodigestion, we use a scrubber to remove the sulfur, which is basically iron filings inside of a tube that bond with the sulfur smell, so it doesn't smell. And then you just replace the iron filings. Yeah, it's pretty simple.
How do geothermal networks figure into all of this? And also, my understanding about geothermal is that they use now fracking technology to dig into rock formations for the water and heat. How does that? Is there testing going on to see which campuses are eligible for geothermal, and how would that fit into the systems that you're talking about? Which, by the way, I just want to say that I'm amazed at some of these presentations. They've really been fabulous. I've gone to lots of these town halls, and really, this is so informative. So just a big thank you to all of you. Really helpful.
Yeah.
I mean, I think.
And then I'll talk about some fun.
Yeah.
So geothermal, we can also. There's new technologies coming out. So one of the new technologies that I'm excited about are geothermal that are embedded in building elements. So this is basically like if you're driving a pile, let's say for a new parking lot, you can actually build a geothermal loop into those piles and connect them. So there's, and I know egg engineering or geo is involved with a lot of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think he made a great point. It's like it's not necessarily feasible everywhere. Like you can build the infrastructure to make it so, but it's like it's not. Not everything is going to line up exactly the way you want to get a 10 in a particular district. So I think I think that depends a lot on kind of engineering studies and seeing what's feasible. And then I think some creativity needs to be involved to see where can we do waste heat capture. I mean, I think the Shark Energy thing was really a great example of that. I mean, there's I think you just have to be really creative and kind of look around. I mean, I think the most standard thing is doing boreholes. And so we tried in the last session, to do, there's a guy named Tom Kelly is doing a project at NYPIRG, and they're using boreholes to do the thermal loop. But then, they're going to link it up with like all these different kind of entities in the neighborhood. So.
Yeah. Just wanted to say that a number of the CUNY campuses have piping networks that right now have gas. That could be emptied out, and water could be distributed in those same pipes, which would be huge savings, right? To not have to develop on each campus, but some could be retained.
Yeah, absolutely. any elements that can be reused or recycled, absolutely. I think a good point to make broadly is we need to embrace creativity and we need to embrace new ideas. And I think what becomes difficult are the physical limitations and the funding. So, for example, New York City's on bedrock, so drilling into the bedrock is always not the best idea. So, as we said, we just have to be creative. And then funding-wise, as long the unproven technologies, this is a big challenge for our capstone, aren't always financially feasible or ready for that level of deployment. So we have to be careful there if we want to make sure that the solution remains viable financially.
I just want to say one thing about funding, since you raised really two. One is that the New York Power Authority can float its own bonds, and lots of public pension funds and private pension funds are looking for pro-climate investments. That could be one of them, and they can be very expansive in those bonds. And then the other is that the Inflation Reduction Act, Biden's signature climate legislation, will give an entity like CUNY 50% of the cost of a climate project back as soon as it in cash, not in a tax deduction, but actually in cash as soon as the project is over. That's pretty good. That seems like now is the time to move.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I would agree with that 100%. David and our group are looking at funding through NYSERDA, funding through NYPA, and obviously we'll take a look at the IRA as well. There are a lot of good provisions out there. CUNY as a nonprofit makes those funding, and because it's a NYPA customer, it doesn't pay into the systems benefit charge, makes it more difficult to secure state funding. But they do have programs that are available. So we're going to include that with our capstone, looking at what financial avenues are viable to expedite the process and secure funding. I would say broadly, I'm just listening to all the speakers as well, but just in my experience, the money often doesn't go where it needs to go in terms of development that equates to social justice, right? So we would rather see that money spent in a public college, but that same pool of money is available to private schools as well, some with billions of dollars of endowment. So putting pressure on those legislatures and activating the grassroots and getting out, people to push the legislature in terms of where that money is directed is really important as well. Yeah. Huge part of that. So that's why it's super encouraging to see you guys. So tell us when the next events are coming up. That's my question for the speakers.
At Hostess at 3:30.
Where is it?
Hostess at 3:30.
Get on the train now. You can.
That's awesome.
But there will be more activities, and we will keep you posted.
Great.
Any more questions?
I had a question about this Rambo report. That is the outside consulting firm's report on how to decarbonize CCNY, and only two other, as we heard from your presentation, only two other CUNY campuses have benefited from this report. So what's the administration's plan to communicate the results of that, particularly to the entire campus in kind of layperson's terms?
That would be a great project to figure out, because right now we're figuring out our master plan. We're trying to get a better scope of how we can communicate with the campus. And we can send out emails to the campus community, but we don't have these kinds of events where we get attendance and we get news out. We can put in, we have short periods at faculty meetings at the faculty senate, but I don't know how far those go, and that's up to the discretion of the faculty senate. So communication is difficult, and we're still waiting to hear anything back from them, because they're really deep in the process of coming up with all the viable solutions and projects we're putting.
Did they perform a full audit of all of the buildings on this campus?
I personally wasn't there when it happened, but I do know that it was a full sidewalk there we were looking at doing another one.
I think the CUNY administration, the top level administration that's dealing with facilities has been very reticent to share plans with the broader public. I'm very glad to hear that you're trying to do that here. But they really made that process very opaque. And I'm not sure what the fear is, because I think when you hear plans, I think everybody gets so enthusiastic. We're excited about it. We want to support it, try to figure out those of us that can engage in more political activity can push for it and support the work. I don't think anyone's saying, oh, you're not doing it right. We're saying, do it. Let's move forward. And I know you're probably not making these decisions. Maybe the vice chancellor of facilities and administration is making these decisions. But it just seems like there's been so much reticence to share what plans there are. And it just seems to me to be unfortunate. And anyone who has contact with these people, it'd be great to let them know that I don't see any antagonism. We just want to see things move forward.
My contact information is available through the CUNY website. I'll give my information to anyone. I'll get you in contact with the sustainability groups. We try to get in contact with student government and public relations and other groups that can communicate to the wider campus, but it's difficult.
Arthur, I know you and I are frequently in contact because I'm checking up to find out when the next sustainability meeting is. But it would be interesting to know when that is on the docket as soon as it does get scheduled, because I know that the last one was in April, I think, so a long time ago, and it does sound like there's been a lot of movement on back end, teams-wise, which I'm not familiar with, but to have the students involved in those meetings, I do believe is very important, because clearly there's a lot of enthusiasm from the students to get these projects done, and perhaps when the executives hear that enthusiasm, they'll be more prepared to continue moving that work forward maybe a little bit faster.
As soon as we schedule this information, I do my utmost to send it as far as it goes. But from what I'm hearing, it's not going as far as we want.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate it. I mean, you have been incredibly communicative, so I think everyone probably who's been in contact with you appreciates that. So, whenever you have the next.
In regards to student government, NYPIRG has very close ties with the undergraduate student government here at CCNY, and even some of our board members are current student government senators who can absolutely help with that, because they definitely want to see how campus can be more sustainable on here, as well as because currently they're working on the Save the Cafe campaign, as I've seen, but it's a matter of also in a way divesting and making the funding much more equitable to stuff like making the campus more sustainable with these amazing projects, and not going towards administrative work, from what I've heard from USG and such. But for any context for undergraduate student government to know more about these sorts of projects and how to get them off the ground and be a voice from the students to administration, definitely let me know if you can connect with.
Good. I've got contact with you. No problem.
Any other questions? Thank you so much, Yael. Thank you so much to our speakers.